It's time for another bear bedtime story. Let's go. The Guardian of the Star Silk. Chapter 1. The Mountain of Whispers. At the very top of the highest peak in the Blue Range lived a bear named Orion. Orion was a moon bear, distinguished by a bright crescent-shaped patch of silver fur on his chest. While most bears preferred the low valleys and the muddy river banks, Orion loved the silence of the high crags. He lived in a cave carved out of white quartz that sparkled like a diamond when the moon hit it just right. Orion had a very special task. He was the folder of the clouds. Every evening, as the sun began to dip behind the horizon, Orion would stand on the promenade of peace, a flat, grassy ledge that overlooked the entire world. Using his large, soft paws, he would reach out into the sky and catch the stray, tattered clouds of the day. He would smooth them out, fold them into neat, fluffy squares, and tuck them behind the mountain peaks so the stars would have a clear, dark sky to shine in. One evening, while Orion was folding a particularly stubborn sunset pink cloud, he heard a tiny peep from a nearby crevice. He looked down and found a star fox named Astra. Astra was small, with fur that shimmered like a nebula, but she looked very tired. "I've lost my glow, Orion," she whispered. "The sky was too windy tonight, and I can't find my way back to the Milky Way." Orion gently picked her up, her weight no more than a handful of starlight, and tucked her into the silver crescent of fur on his chest to keep her warm. That is the end of chapter 1. Are you ready for chapter 2? Let's go. Chapter 2. The Sky Garden and the Frozen Bells. To help Astra find her glow, Orion knew they had to visit the Sky Garden. This wasn't a garden of flowers, but a garden of frozen bells, delicate ice crystals that grew on the very tip of the mountain. These crystals captured the light of the moon and hummed a low, sentinels. Orion knew every stone by name. He would pat them as he passed, a gesture of friendship between the living and the still. They reached the sky garden just as the moon reached its highest point. The frozen bells were translucent and shaped like tiny trumpets. As the wind brushed through them, they let out a sound like a soft silver lullaby. Orion sat in the center of the garden and began to hum along. His deep bass voice vibrated through his chest and into Astra. Slowly, her fur began to pulse with light again, first a soft violet, then a deep indigo, and finally a brilliant shimmering white. That is the end of chapter 2. Are you excited to hear the end of the stories, besties? I am too. Let's go. Chapter 3. The Blanket of Midnight. With Astra's glow restored, it was time for the world to truly rest. Astra licked Orion's nose in thanks and leaped into the air, turning into a streak of light that joined the constellations above. Orion watched her until she was a tiny bright dot in the sky. Now, Orion had one final job for the night. He reached into the deepest corner of his quartz cave and pulled out the star silk. This was a blanket he had been weaving for 100 years, made from the gossamer threads of falling stars and the softest down of mountain owls. It was the color of midnight and felt like a cool breeze on a summer night. He walked the edge of his ledge and shook the blanket out. It unfurled across the sky, draping over the valleys, the rivers, and the sleeping towns below. This blanket ensured that everyone, from the tiniest field mouse to the largest elk, would have dreams that felt like soft adventures. Orion returned to his cave, the quartz walls now glowing with gentle dim light. He laid down on his bed of dried heather, his large head resting on his paws. He looked out at the sky he had cleared and the blanket he had spread. The world was quiet, the stars were steady, and Orion the great moon bear let out one last deep breath. That signaled the start of the midnight hour. He closed his eyes, his silver crescent glowing faintly in the dark, and fell into a deep sleep, and as the mountain itself. The end. Good night, besties. I hope you enjoyed this. I love you all so